Wild Card Weekend is in the books. It's time to look forward to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Now, we got 4 more great matchups this week, and I really like the 4 wild card games that we had last week compared to last season. Last season, all the wild card games were just blowouts. In fact, there wasn't that many good games. In fact, out of the 11 playoff games we had last year, there was about 3 good ones. And already we've had some good ones. The Titans-Chiefs, that was a really good one. Jacksonville-Buffalo, that was a good game. But a little bit disappointed in the scoring, but defensive football is good as well. And the Saints and Panthers, that was turning into a blowout, but the Panthers seemed to close in the gap. And the Falcons and the Rams, that started off as a good game. In fact, I think if the Rams didn't have those 2 turnovers in the first quarter, we probably would have had, that could have been the best game to look forward to. But we got 4 more games to look forward to in the divisional round, and I don't think they're going to disappoint. Let's start with the ones on Saturday. The Falcons and the Eagles. Now, the Falcons are coming off what I think are the 2 best games of the year defensively. They won convincingly against the Panthers and against the Rams. The defense has risen up. The defense and special teams has risen up to the occasion the last 2 games. Now, the Falcons may have been 2-5 in the regular season, but who have they really? Let's look at those games versus the playoff teams. Let's take a look at them. They played the Saints twice, Panthers twice. They played the Bills. They played the Vikings. They played the Patriots. Now, if you look at the final scores of those games, the Bills, the one against the Bills, the defense held them to 23. The offense could only generate 17 points, and that was the game where Julio Jones left early, Mohamed Sanu left early. They were a little bit shorthanded on offensive line. So the defense, I don't think, has any problems with losing any of those 5 games against the playoff teams. Against the Vikings, the defense was able to hold strong, but the offense just couldn't generate touchdowns. Just like the Patriots, the defense played pretty strong because they only held them to 23 points. And if you hold a New England Patriots team to less than 24 points, you've got a good chance to win. You just got to have your offense generate points. The offense couldn't seem to generate points against the 5 games they lost against playoff teams. Their defense, they held pretty strong, but the offense couldn't generate points. And now you look at the Eagles side. They don't have Carson Wentz. Torn ACL against the Rams, out for the season. But the weather is projected it calls for some showers at game time. In fact, I looked at that weather in Philadelphia, and it shows showers almost the entire afternoon. But there is a 1-hour gap that I saw. But I think this game will come down to running. I think whichever team runs the football the best, I think is going to win. I think the Falcons are going to win, but I don't want to pick them because the Falcons are my team and I don't want to show any biased opinion. So I'm going to go with the Eagles. I just don't want to show bias here, but I think the Falcons would win this game. But the thing that I think the Eagles win this game is the huge difference maker is going to be Jay Ajayi. Because Jay Ajayi, he seemed to run at will against this Falcons defense back when he was with the Dolphins. And I see Jay Ajayi being the difference maker this time. I think the Eagles will get the win. Nothing against the Falcons, it's just that I think that the Eagles, I think having home field, I just think, based on how the weather's going to be for that game, I just see it favoring the heavily running team. And I think it's going to end up favoring Philadelphia. Next one, we got the Titans versus the Patriots. And can Derrick Henry have another good game? Derrick Henry has to have the same exact game he had last week against Kansas City, but then maybe 2 or 3 times better. I think the Patriots defense might have a problem stopping him at first, but I think after the second half adjustments, I think the Patriots will take control of the game, and I think they'll ultimately win. So I think the Patriots win by at least maybe 14-17. I think it's going to be really close early on, but I just think the further on the game goes on, I think the Patriots will continue to take control. Because if you notice in playoff games, not all of the Patriots' playoff victories, Tom Brady has not necessarily been the difference maker. It's been the running game. And if you just look at the running game, Gillislee, Dion Lewis, They could be difference makers in this matchup. I'm going to take New England in this one. Now on to the Sunday ones. Jacksonville versus Pittsburgh. Now, the Jaguars did beat Pittsburgh in Week 5 when they had 5 interceptions against Big Ben. But I think this is a much different Ben Roethlisberger right now. Because the very next week, Ben Roethlisberger responded. He's responded ever since the 5 interception game. And I think Pittsburgh can win this time around. Because I think if the Pittsburgh defense, if they can contain Leonard Fournette and force Blake Bortles to have to make plays, I think this is a long afternoon for Jacksonville. I think Pittsburgh's going to win this matchup. Probably not by as much as I would think. I would think about maybe 14 points, but I could see this being a one-touchdown game. But I still think Pittsburgh gets the W. But there most likely isn't going to be Antonio Brown to play in this matchup. But I still think the receptions or the targets in the receiving core is going to be by committee. Juju Smith-Schuster has really stepped up, the rookie out of USC. He stepped up in these last 2 games. Martavis Bryant is going to have to step up. I think he does step up. Eli Rogers can step up. I think the Steelers are going to win, I think by about 7 points at the least, 10 points at the max. Now on to the final divisional matchup, the Saints and the Vikings. Now this is going to be probably, in my opinion, the best matchup of the week. I think this is going to be a ratings grabber. But the way I see this one, the Saints and the Vikings did play each other in Week 1. But honestly, I think this is a much different Saints team right now than what we saw in Week 1. Because Drew Brees still managed to throw for almost 300 yards against the Vikings secondary in Week 1. And this running game for the Saints has been much different ever since that Week 1. Because that was back when they had unhappy and dissatisfied Adrian Peterson. And the Vikings, I just think this is going to favor the Saints running game a little bit. I think Drew Brees can make some Drew Brees plays, but I think if the Vikings can contain the running game, force Drew Brees to make some passes, force him to challenge that secondary, I think the Vikings can win this matchup. But I just can't bet against Drew Brees at this point. Because the Saints have responded pretty well ever since the 0-2 start to the season. Because, like I said, their running game has been much different. Although their running game was not as effective against Carolina in the wild card matchup as what I intended, I think their running game responds. And I think the Saints pick up, a low-scoring matchup. I think this is going to be a defensive battle throughout most of the first part of the game. But I think when we get to quarters 3 and 4, I think that's going to favor the better running game. And I think that favors the Saints. I'm taking the Saints to beat the Vikings. So those are my division round picks. Comment your picks down below. Also like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends and family. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day, everyone.